ARK is a challenging game as it is. Maybe you have really explored every nook and cranny of every map, and think you have beaten everything there is to beat. Well, think again. There is far more challenging content out there awaiting us, which is why in this video I'll be showcasing my top 10 overhaul mods you need to try in ARK Survival Ascended. All mods can be played cross-platform, and I will be including both free and premium. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Kicking off our list at number 10, we have InsaneEverything Lite from LTY, which is a great free-to-play overhaul mod. It will add a wide variety of new and deadly variants to your world, some weaker and some being the deadliest of adversaries you will face on your ARK journey yet. It is said to be more of an RNG style mod, making the unknown spawn on killing dinos, so watch your backs. It might be a dodo, but what if a tornado spawns after slaying it? Out of nowhere. You better get the hell out of there. Anything and everything can happen while playing this mod. You'll be able to tame almost all of these new creatures. The mod adds new tiers of building pieces, structures, a wide variety of crafting stations, kibbles, consumables. There are so many tiers of resources, armor and weapons, which give the player godly-like stats and unique abilities. If you ever wanted to know what it feels like to be Usain Bolt, well, here's your answer, but times that by 5. You'll need to hunt, gather and obtain resources and items from kills to craft these items to aid you in beating this mod. Of course, that is easier said than done when almost all creatures hit like a truck and want you dead. Fully utilizing these engrams and the mod's creatures is key, as vanilla structures, weapons, creatures, etc. go out of the window. Not to mention you'll have over 30 bosses, titans and 20 world mini bosses to beat. So there is a lot of challenging hurdles you'll need to jump over to crown yourself the king and queen of the ARK when running this mod. And I will admit that InsaneEverything would be much higher on the list if it wasn't for these bright zigzaggy water painting like colors and effects that all the creatures and even the player armors give off. It is just constant visual clutter. Surely this cannot be my graphic settings, as I pretty much have everything set to high and epic. But I mean, if you can get over that, then you'll most likely enjoy playing this mod. In at number 9 is Primordial Unleashed, which comes from Slayer Extreme TV, a free-to-play overhaul mod experience where all living dinosaurs and creatures that once roamed with natural instincts are now transcendent beings, strengthened and altered beyond recognition, ranging from an array of new species and variants that will no doubt make you regret your every decision. How do you one-shot me? Just a little level 20 Gamma Dodo. You will dive headfirst into a world of new tiers of items and structures to play around with, including weapons, armor, saddles and crafting stations, narcotics, tranks and a tiered kibble system to go with it. Plus this super fast raft. I do love a bit of raft action in my life. I always say that there's nothing better than a rapid raft. The void tools are awesome and gather excessive amounts of resources. The sickle can harvest any bush for crops, rare flowers and rare mushrooms. So yeah, that gives you a little bit of a cheeky head start. Craft items and crafted stations from the mod to slowly progress, most of which are bright pink. So yeah, I wasn't really a fan of that color, but hey, some of the structures do have really nice designs though, so I'm not going to take too many jabs. Most variants of creatures will not be accessible to tame until you have the ability to craft kibble for them. However, there is a type of creature known as travel variants, which are typically purple and pink in color. They are much weaker than most in the wild, however do have better stats than vanilla creatures, most notably boosted weight and a godly amount of stamina after just putting one level into it. These can be tamed without kibble, so will be your first stepping stone to progressing. Hunt and kill creatures, chop them up for blood, hide, souls and many other resources, and begin stocking up to aid you in crafting items. Craft your void kibble to gain the ability to tame void creatures. These are also highly important, as the Anklo, for example, can gather void ore from metal nodes along with a bunch of other resources, also void flowers and mushrooms from bushes, and so on and so forth. Inevitably working your way up to the point where you can craft up a primordial shrine to take on the biggest and baddest bosses the mod has to offer. And there is a lot of bosses to beat, and I mean a lot. Defeating bosses can unlock more kibble and engrams, so yeah, you'll definitely be wanting to get your hands on some of those Eclipse, Ragnarok and Oblivion variants to smash this mod out of the park. I will admit I did have a lot of fun trying this one out. The mod page does share a link to a really nice in-depth tutorial on a Google spreadsheet, so there is always that if you don't feel like jumping into the deep end of the unknown, but that's all part of the fun, right? So if you are looking for a new type of challenge, or maybe you need some more grinding in your life, this is a great mod to try. In at number 8 is ARK Descended, which comes from Empty Dream, another banging free-to-play overhaul mod that will give any survivor a new, thrilling and challenging experience. As always with these types of overhaul mods, you will progress through taming lower tiers of creatures, in this case either starting out with vanilla or ordinary variants. These are mostly docile, which you will be able to tame right off the bat without kibble. The ordinary creatures serve as a much stronger variant than the vanilla, but they will still be no match for the array of higher tier creatures and bosses roaming the world, which I was unfortunate enough to discover very early on. Good, thinking I could take on the entire world with my ordinary trike, but I guess he lived up to the name of ordinary after all. The mod of course adds new engrams, a new kibble system to aid you in taming creatures of the mod. I would say that the kibble is easier to obtain than other mods. You just simply have to go out and hunt creatures for their essence and souls, tame up a male and a bunch of female dodos for their eggs, which is pretty much the go-to strategy for most of these mods anyway. Once gathering enough, you'll be able to make better kibble, which opens the door to further tiers, all of which can be crafted from the Descended smithy. Many boss summon engrams can be crafted and summoned for the ultimate challenge. Here we summoned this excellent dodo boss, which we expected to be tiny and a breeze, as the crafting requirements were relatively cheap, but we were soon mistaken, and it beefed us up in a wonder. Luckily, a powerful Ceratosaurus was on the beach and was able to do our job for us, where we received a bunch of tasty loot from the kill. It also spawned in a baby that could be knocked out and tamed via regular feeding methods. And well, I never knew how much I needed a giant rideable dodo in my life until now. Plus, they rapidly passively produce excellent essence and rare mushrooms over time. So yeah, that Ceratosaurus was a knight in shining armor in getting my journey kickstarted. Utilizing all these creatures and tactics in killing bosses and stronger creatures for their essence and goodies will see you progressing further and further through the mod, and ultimately battling it out with some of the most challenging bosses ARK has seen to date. I absolutely love this mod, man. It might even be one of my favorite free mods on this list. Up next is Annunaki Ascended, which is an evolution of the highly popular mod Annunaki Genesis from ASE, originally created by Psycho, and is free to play. It has been brought back to life in ASA by Slayer Extreme TV, rebuilt from the ground up, adding extensive changes, refinements, and balancing to deliver a more challenging and rewarding survival experience, and takes difficulty to a whole new level, adding many dangerous creatures, an array of new engrams and structures to learn and utilize to aid you in conquering this mod, including this super speedy raft, by the way. You know I love to point out a good raft when I see it. I almost felt unstoppable cruising around on this thing. That is until you get overconfident and a warden hits you once and puts you right back in your place. Well, it's all part of the fun, right? As expected, a long list of creature variants and tiers will be found roaming the world, with the utility classes of Elite, for example, being the starting point of creatures that you can readily tame at the early game. For example, I was able to tame a giant Dimorphodon through knockout taming methods, and with raw prime meat, but the options for the Elite tier are limited, and you will find yourself salivating for some stronger tames soon enough. To unlock high quality kibble and progress to taming stronger tiers, you actually need to hunt down the formidable mini bosses. This trike was not messing around, but with our Annunaki swords in hand and countless deaths, we were able to take this thing out and unlock most of the kibble. The mod is a lot of fun, and I would confidently say that this is one of the better free Dino Overhaul mods you can download today. I actually had a right blast playing this one, even more so than the next two entries. Let me quickly introduce you to the new ARK TBS seasonal 4-man tribe PvP server, rocking over to Ragnarok, which kicks off tomorrow, Friday the 1st of May, offering boosted rates to kickstart your journey, paired with a long list of TBS quality of life mods, custom caves, and more unique features. Offline raid protection will be present during the week to keep your base safe and sound. At the end of the season, the winner will receive a cash prize, and players will have the option to transfer to their no-wipe servers, or begin a new season. They are also said to be opening up a Primal Chaos PvE server at some point also. So if you are interested in joining, links to their Discord is in the description of the video, or you can simply search for tbs.com while selecting show player service to join right away. Now let's get right back to the video. One of these being one of the more popular free overhaul mods on the list, that is Primal Chaos from Mr. Chaos. This mod will fill your world with a wide variety of freaks of nature, mythical beasts, and bosses, which as expected are best avoided for the most part. It gives survivors the ultimate survival challenge. Similar to other mods on the list, it introduces a variety of new structured tiers and engrams to aid you in progression, adding its own range of kibbles to aid you in taming many of the magnificent beasts you can stumble upon in the wild, pairing that with better quality quality tranks and narcotics to make taming that little bit easier. And it is definitely worth grinding out for some stronger weaponry, that's for sure. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, I could never have imagined myself riding a giant mythical Jerboa. Oh, look at that cute little face. Most items can be crafted from the Primal Chaos workbench and Primal Chaos forge. This means you'll have to hunt, kill and retrieve an array of new hides, bloods and all that good stuff. And just when you think you are thriving and surviving or riding on the back of the strongest creature in the game, you will soon realize that you are nothing when it comes to the adversaries you will face in this mod. Speaking of, there are many open world mini bosses to battle and also endgame bosses, which can either be summoned from your inventory after crafting the summoning tokens, and with some rarely being found in the wild. This includes the Hydro, Volcanic, Electric, Chaos, and finally the Spirit Guardian, all having the ability to hit you with a force of 1,000 trucks while having millions of health, while the Chaos Guardian has over 300 million health, just to give you a little bit of an idea. But if you can prevail in defeating them, you will be rewarded greatly for your efforts, plus the ability to summon a tameable version of the first 3 bosses too. And if that wasn't enough for you, there is also a wide selection of other bosses you can summon, so yeah, good luck with all that. Let the chaos commence. In at number 5 is going to be ARK Omega Ascended from Hexen Lord, and is going to be our first premium mod on the list, which will set you back a sum of $10 US, and does add an array of new content to enjoy, filling your world with hundreds of different creature variants with new and devastating abilities, most of which can be tamed to aid you throughout your journey. And although players will start off feeble and vulnerable, the mod allows players and tamed creatures to progress at an exponential rate, making your playthrough highly rewarding. And just like many of the mods on this list, you will begin your journey attempting to hunt said creatures in stocking up on various souls, essence and other resources which are required in crafting many of the engrams. For example, when starting out, only a couple of variants of creatures are tameable. You'll begin by taming basic creatures or vanilla dodos for eggs, plus the basic kibble can be made without eggs, which is always nice. And with the eggs of tiered creatures, paired with other gathered resources, will see you working your way up to the next tier of kibble and so on and so forth, which are all made from the modded kibble machine. So it is a bit of a grind until you can really own any creatures that pack a punch. The mod adds many new items, sedatives, tranks, consumables, customizable weapons, tools, armor, and a few crafting stations to give you a well-rounded overhaul mod experience. Resource creatures can be tamed that will passively produce resources inside their inventory over time, which is a very nice addition. For example, I have a Pearl Bronto here that produces silica pearls over time. Very nice. But you can find a variety of species that produce most valuable resources in the game. Or maybe you want to tame a fusion of Stego and Spino, who apparently is a harvesting god, able to harvest almost every resource in the game. Interesting. The different types of variants in this mod feel endless, and speaking of, evolving your tamed creatures from lower to higher tiers is key in this mod. You can rarely find the Paragon creatures in the wild, which can be killed for a specific Paragon soul, which all depends on the species of the creature. These Paragon souls can also be obtained in other ways, but are also very rare. Evolving your tames can all be done from the soul grinder. This is where you can craft tiered tokens, which you can force feed to your creatures to make them stronger. Here I have a Gamma Argentavis, and I've crafted a beta token with the Argentavis Paragon Soul, and when force fed to the Argy, will upgrade it to the beta tier, and rinse and repeat until you get to the highest tier. This will increase their stats exponentially. Essence loot crates can also be found in the world, and with the correct essence can be opened for an abundance of loot, and you know how much I love a bit of loot. And speaking of loot, killing creatures can also drop higher quality, so you shouldn't find yourself short on loot. So ultimately, just like other mods, tame, level up, evolve, and prepare an army. Upgrade your base and loot, where you can then think about taking on the bosses. Prime tier creatures can be found in the wild. These are like mini bosses, and once defeating them, you can unlock the Omega Beacon. These beacons can be used to summon tameable creatures or bosses when placing 100 souls inside, or unique souls in the trophy slot. And you can summon hundreds of different bosses in this mod. And once defeated, you may be rewarded with a boss soul, or even tech grams. These boss souls can also be force fed to specific tamed creatures, just like the tier tokens, but I have not reached that stage of the game just yet. Or can be chucked back into the terminal to summon a stronger boss with better potential rewards. It is a really cool mod, a little more complicated than others on the list, but it is still highly addicting, and I cannot wait to revisit it again. In at number 4 is going to be Jurassic Awakening from Heliotro. This may actually be one of my favourite free-to-play overhaul mods on the list, and I'm pretty sure I've already said that, but this is probably the one that I prefer the most, as it is very unique as opposed to the other mods. It adds layers of difficulty that no other mod offers. But the best thing about it for me is that this mod alters the game in many different ways, yet it still feels like vanilla ARK, which is my favourite type of ARK to play. And I do also understand that this mod may not be for everyone because of that. It is, however, not one for the faint-hearted, as I do believe that once installing it, it will ignore all of your server settings. For example, creates its own XP, harvesting, taming, and breeding rates. So it really is brutal in that respect. The wildlife are smarter, tougher, and have new behavior, making for a realistic and unique experience. It introduces a biome progression system, which is how the game should be played in my opinion. For example, on the beaches, you'll have an easier time with fewer threats and lower level creature spawns, but as soon as you venture further inland, the game becomes more and more difficult, with higher level and far more dangerous creatures to ambush you at every turn. And I do believe that creatures can spawn up to a max level of 500 in the wild. So let's just use the snow biome for example, as it is one of the most dangerous regions for this mod. It has a higher spawn rate and level of deadlier creatures, which is how the snow biome should be. Every adventure will require far more preparation and takes the survival journey to a whole other level. The mod massively improves creature AI with herding, following, hunting, and defending mechanics, where most species of creature will group up together for a better chance of survival. The mod offers 3 difficulty settings, which you will find when navigating to the cog icon on the right side of your character's inventory. This ranges from easy, normal, and hard, with all settings technically being quite difficult in their own right. Hard mode is a whole different beast. So yeah, choose that if you want to endure endless pain. The mod naturally boosts player and creature stat leveling to aid you in facing your new formidable journey, pairing all that smart map and player progression with an array of new engrams to play around with. The mod actually adds hundreds of new structures, items, crafting stations, weapons, resources, consumables, armor, saddles, and even adds a little bit of raft customization, which does also include a large raft. So if you love to live life like a pirate, then it could be a viable strategy in Jurassic Awakening. You name it, this mod has it. It also adds hundreds of new creature variants. For example, the snow biome has Arctic variants, the redwoods has redwood variants, etc, etc. What you won't be expecting is running into the variety of new alpha variants and mini bosses roaming the map, boasting ridiculously high damaging attacks and massive health pools, which offers an extra challenge to an already highly challenging experience, and you will be rewarded greatly for your efforts if you are able to take them down. Not only is there deadly mini bosses in the wild, but there are also a few summonable bosses too, so there is plenty here to sink your teeth into. It is stated in the description that the mod isn't recommended to be played with other mods. For example, I had a bunch of creature mods installed on my server, and absolutely none of the variants from Jurassic Awakening would spawn at all. So it really is best played without other mods. I'm sure you could still discover a few that work, so all in all it does offer a unique experience, and I'm super happy to have recently discovered this amazing mod. Moving into the top 3, we have ARK Supreme, a mod that almost didn't make this list as it only just recently released, and as expected is another high quality overhaul mod from Mr. Chaos, which is also premium and will set you back a sum of $10 US. Upon installation, you will be met with death. I'm gonna try and see if he wants... Oh! Lots of death. And what was once a safe place for survivors, the beaches are far from it now. You may even run into a dodo wielding rocket launchers. And if one of those wanders too close to your humble abode, well, it will most likely become Crumble Abode, which I was unfortunate enough to discover here, so I had to roll back my server. Well, that's a server rollback. What are you meant to do about that, like? That's unfair. The mod boasts high quality creature and boss designs, new resources, upgrades, evolution, and a well-balanced progression system for the ultimate survival challenge. You'll find the typical stable engrams to aid you on your journey, tiered tranks, kibble, narcotics, armor, weaponry, etc, etc, all of which can be crafted from the Supreme workbench or fired up in the Supreme forge to create special ingots. As always, taming up a male and a bunch of female dodos is the best strategy to kickstart your journey. Hunt vanilla creatures for basic resources, and a variety of modded contraptions that will ambush you at every turn when attempting to get a foothold on the beach. With your dodo eggs amassing and special bloods and hides piling up, you'll be able to craft savage kibble and begin amassing your first army. Following that, upgraded to toxic creatures and so on and so forth. Speaking of, there are a wide variety of creature tiers to choose from. Berserker, Grenadier, Necrotic, and Warden are tiers of creatures you'll be able to tame at any stage of the game, as the kibble can be unlocked in the engrams. All you'll need is the required resources needed in crafting the kibble and tranks to put those beasts down. You will, however, need to defeat bosses to unlock the higher tier kibbles. For example, defeating a tier 3 boss will unlock the vampiric kibble, and so on and so forth. All kibble can be unlocked in your engrams and crafted from the Supreme workbench. Some big boys were actually having a scrap in the wild, and one of them died, and I ended up unlocking Prime Kibble and the Chaos Forge by accident, which went directly into my inventory, and I believe that was because the nuclear boss was defeated nearby or something like that. New resources include unique types of ore, which can be smelted into ingots and then refined into quality tools, weapons, and armor. You'll definitely be needing some good protection out there, that's for sure. Mythical bees can be found roaming everywhere, coming in numerous different variants, luckily not overly hostile, and kind of share the same temperament as the vanilla queen bee. They can also be tamed the same way, which will give players the option to craft unique honey directly from their inventory, which are valuable ingredients in many of the mod's crafting recipes. Human NPCs are also found thriving and surviving out there, and I know what you're thinking, but no, they cannot be tamed. However, they can be killed for some tasty loot in the form of XP and healing potions, high quality armor, tools, and weapons. Lovely jubbly. As expected, you'll need to hunt, tame, breed, and evolve your army fit for taking on the array of summonable bosses, most of which will spawn 2 variants, a beefed up non-tameable boss, and once defeating that, you can obtain the saddle for it, tokens, souls, etc, etc. These items will go directly into your inventory, with souls and tokens used in boss summoning recipes or to further evolve your monsters. It will then spawn a weaker and tameable version, which can be tamed via typical knockout methods. And I must say, the mod probably has some of the best looking bosses out of any of the overhaul mods featured here in this video. I absolutely love the design, special effects of their attacks, and it's so much fun discovering the creature's new abilities. Not so much being on the receiving end of these abilities, but hey, that is expected. All in all, ARK Supreme is an absolute blast, offering an exciting thrill ride, deadly open world and summonable bosses like nothing you've ever seen before in ARK, that will take a formidable army to face off against the final boss, that is the Juggernaut. Only then will you officially conquer these lands. Almost missing out on the top spot is none other than Primal Nemesis, which also comes from Mr. Chaos. This is another premium mod that will set you back a sum of $10 and is one of the more popular overhaul mods out there today, and for good reason. Just like other mods, this one will fill your world full of all types of freaks of nature like you've never seen before. A wide variety of creature variants, world bosses, and all that good stuff. Similar to ARK Supreme, the quality of the creatures, bosses, and effects are some of the best in the game. It is said to bring over 1,000 custom designed creatures, with most having new and unique abilities. The mod introduces new structures and crafting stations, items, armor, tools, weapons, saddles, and more. As expected, tiered narcotics paired with tranks and different types of kibble for different types of variants. And just like other mods, you'll tame up a male and a bunch of female vanilla dodos to get yourself a nice supply of eggs. Well, that is if these big ass nature dodos allow you to, because oh my days, these things killed me so many times when starting out. All I wanted to do was make some friends with some dodos, man. But yeah, these things are like the bouncers of the beach. They will not let you do it. They own the beach and they will kick you out. And they just seem to come out of nowhere. Hunt down wild creatures, if you can, to kill and harvest their goodies to stock up on as many resources as you can, as you will need it all later on. Unlock the Primal Cauldron, which acts as an upgrade to the Mortar and Pestle, and this is where you'll be able to craft Alpha Kibble, which kickstarts your journey through the Taming Tree. And when you think you have amassed a strong enough army of alpha creatures, you can think about taking on the alpha boss. You can craft the summon engram at the primal bench along with many other future bosses. Find yourself a nice safe and empty space well away from your base, just in case. I chose to go with the bread and butter of ARK and was able to tame and breed up an Alpha Rex army for this first boss. And I will admit I was not expecting it to be a giant Jerboa. And if you can prevail in defeating the bosses, you will unlock the next tier of kibble. You will also unlock the primal incubator, which allows players to craft summonable versions of the bosses that can be tamed. And when you finally get around to doing that, you'll then feel unstoppable. And then you just get slapped good and proper by a flying fish. out of nowhere, crushing all of your dreams in a wanna. Don't forget to keep your boss trophies safe, as you will need those later on for summoning requirements. And you kind of just rinse and repeat the process, progressing through the tiers of kibble, unlocking stronger creatures to tame, which inevitably upgrade your army ready for the next boss, and so on and so forth. My Rexes did also manage to beat the Apex boss as well, so yeah, they were absolute beasts. The world and summon bosses you can fight in this mod are like nothing I've ever seen before, ranging from mechanical plasma beings, demon bosses, giant elemental kaijus, just casually roaming the map, some of which can also be tamed. And if you didn't think Rockwell could get any more messed up, well, think again. Look at that bottom lip go. More features include loot bosses, and yes, that is a supply drop with legs, resource rock golems for unique ores, an array of new resources, seeds, meat, etc, etc. Seeds can be planted in the vanilla and new aquatic crop plots, which are required in crafting recipes. You can also place down these giant versions, which can house massive Species X plants. They don't seem to deal much more damage than one though, which is a bit of a shame. You'll also be able to receive quests which come in many different forms, which I believe are all force-fed to your tamed creatures. I have seen that there are OSD-like wave defense modes, but I haven't been able to find any of those yet. With all that being said, these mods are all very extensive, so it is quite the challenge to properly showcase everything in a video like this, but I would confidently say that I believe Primal Nemesis to be one of the best overhaul mods you can play today. The majority of these mods will give you hundreds and hundreds of hours of enjoyment. And well, taking the #1 spot is none other. Some of which will pursue you to the other side of the map and back. This mod will make even the most experienced players too scared to leave their own base. Dino Overhaul X offers a fresh and unique progression system. Each creature's drag weight, damage, speed, knockback, and many more have been reworked, while falling into 3 main categories: agile, strong, and tough variants, all of which offer their own advantages and disadvantages. These variants are not even visible to the naked eye, and become apparent depending on how much the stats increase when leveling a tamed creature. Taming, exploration, and everything else in between is totally different in docks. Tranquilizing to KO is a thing of the past. Both herbivores and carnivores are tamed with a more passive hands-on approach, through either equipping their preferred foods in your final hotbar slot to hand feed, or by dropping it on the ground in close proximity. Carnivores, on the other hand, will be far more challenging to tame in this manner, but when there's a will, there is a way. This mod is a massive learning curve. Everything you already know about ARK kinda just goes out of the window in docks. To tame creatures effectively, you will need to build up your hunting experience points, which is visible in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. You can increase this by hunting and killing creatures. Alphas are typically the best for this when starting out, as they aren't as strong as they look. Plus, they will also give you some tasty loot in the form of resources, docks potions, genetic strings, and even kibbles. So they are well worth the time in hunting. One important thing to note is that if you do end up dying, your XP is reverted back to 0, which is absolutely brutal, man. And you will spend these experience points every time a creature eats your taming food, so it's best to build it up as early on and as much as you can. You'll definitely be needed it in effectively taming stronger creatures later in the game. And don't forget about the Docks workbench for crafting a variety of Docks engrams. But what makes Docks so unique is its trait system. This existed way before traits and gene infusion was introduced to the vanilla-based game with the Bob's Tall Tales DLC. So hunting creatures for the best and strongest traits is key. Every wild creature will have a random selection of traits. These could be good or bad. All creatures will gain permanent traits, which will enhance or detract from the overall effectiveness of the creature itself, and can be earned in a variety of ways, either through killing creatures, when taking damage, or through feeding genetic strings or elixirs. Unique wild traits are earned after receiving free natural traits or free artifact traits. For example, your creature has to take damage in battle until the trait appears. To maximize these chances, you ideally want to be fighting creatures above your creature's drag weight. Basically, your creatures are rewarded in battle when fighting creatures that are larger, stronger, or a higher level. There are also temporary traits your creatures can gain when out fighting, which makes combat extremely challenging and rewarding. Many of these can, however, make your creature a lot weaker, so it does add to the suspense when engaging engaging in battle. As your tames gain more and more traits and combat experience over time, evolution will become available. For example, you'll be able to evolve alpha creatures into megas after meeting specific requirements. It can be a very long and grindy process and is a little bit confusing in getting to grips with. I almost feel like I'm confusing myself talking about it, to be honest, but this will be the main objective if you want to give yourself any chance of beating this mod. I would highly recommend checking out the Google document guide. Even with this, it is still a lot to take in. Link is in the description of the video. There are also cute little pygmy creatures that can be highly beneficial. These can be easily identified with a purple star above them, and can be tamed with pygmy kibble, which once placed in your final hotbar slot, simply walk on up to them and they will automatically eat the kibble from your hotbar for a chance of taming. They also have their own traits and buffs. Once on your shoulder and riding your creature of choice, will share those same buffs with your creature, and just like everything else, they can have good and bad traits, so you might want to check those before engaging in combat. Hunt to kill creatures for XP, resources, traits, genetic strings, and all that good stuff. Evolve your army to the point where you think you're ready to take on primes, megas, and the strongest adversaries this mod has to offer. And yep, as expected, they hit like a truck. They take barely any damage and can be a right pain in the bum to deal with. But if you can succeed, you will be rewarded greatly for your efforts with a ton of loot, genetic strings, elixirs, and more. To be able to harness the power of a prime or mega could potentially make your tames unstoppable. Primes, megas, and many other open world bosses can spawn almost anywhere on the map. You will be notified if a prime or mega is close by prompts at the bottom right corner of your screen. So if you see that, it's time to tread lightly, especially if you are not ready to battle one. You'll also be notified at the top of your screen with a prompt and coordinates when a prime, mega, or open world boss spawns. You can also keep track of this in the buffs tab inside your inventory. Once evolving and amassing an army fit for war, you can think about taking on the world and summonable bosses, which can all be summoned from the Dock Shrine. And there are some scary bosses to battle, that's for sure. Honestly, Docks to this day still amazes and overwhelms me. I haven't played it for over a year and I feel like it's a completely different experience as opposed to when I last played, but that goes to show how much work has gone into it, and we get to enjoy it all for free. I only really showcased the bare bones basic info here, just to give you a gist of how the mod actually works. For example, I am so far away from legitimately fighting any of these open world and summonable bosses on screen right now. All of these reasons are why I picked it as the best overhaul mod in ARK Survival Ascended. And apparently, if you do defeat some of these summonable bosses, you will receive the ultimate reward of being able to force tame one for yourself. Lovely jubbly. And that is going to be the end of the video for today. This one really has been a marathon to finish, but I promised I would make it, and it is finally done. So if you did make it this far into the video, I'm happy to announce that I am currently running a giveaway on my Discord, giving away a few codes to the new ARK Supreme premium mod featured here in this video. So if you'd like to be in for a chance of winning a code, head over to my Discord server, navigate to the server announcements section, and react to this post with a heart emoji. And I will announce the winners in a week or so. Link will be in the description of the video, along with all the mod pages and Google document guides for any that have one. So yeah, I hope you're all having a great week, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care, goodbye. Nice, I'm done. See you later.